Hello and welcome back to Infinite Roleplay. I am Nelson, your totally immersed God Slayer. We will be playing the endless Pantheon, starting off with the tale of the ever-living. The tale of the ever-living begins in the land of Askinda. Now, Askinda was rumored to be one of the elder gods, but he got into a conflict with the Eater. He was defeated, and the majority of his body was consumed by the Eater, his flesh and his blood raining down from the heavens, the refuse of what the Eater did not consume, covering this land, this region, in the remnants of himself, the remnants of Askinda, giving birth to the civilizations and the creatures and demigods in the land of Askinda. It's a wild and mostly untamed place. Here we have before us some demigods born from the remnants of the power of Askinda. Going from my left to right, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourselves, your characters, and how your demigods manifest with the remnant of the power of this fallen god. We'll start with Brian. If Brian is speaking, we do not know because he is muted. Or we can move straight to Charles.
All right, Internet world. This is the embodiment of Wayfarer, the guardian of all that is natural in the forest. He manifests himself in a great cloak of grass that shrouds up over his head with twigs and such. He carries a dark green visage of the forest that lays around him in the grass. He loves the natural and the balance of nature. He protects with virile passion the wildlife within, and has been known on special occasions to those of virginic attributes to show himself as a great white stag. And turn it back over to Nelson.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Luke, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself and your manifest.
Greetings, puny mortals. I will be playing as Vanut, he who made man. So how did Vanut manifest? As the spreader of the seed of wealth, can't have an origin. A long time ago, as all stories begin, there was a single flower in the forest of the everliving. The essence of the great Father God fell upon this flower and fused together into one being. A being so pretty and so beautiful that all he could see that was beautiful was himself. For he is the only one that exists. So, as the spreader of the seed of wealth, I must now go out into the world and, as part God and part nature, spread my seed, propagate, pollinate.
Wonderful. Is Brian back yet or no? If not, we could move. Oh, Brian, there you go.
Sorry.
Just introduce yourself and your character, your manifestation.
Brian? Yes. I'm Brian. My character is called Garconius. He is the mountain of wealth. works. He is the demigod of strength, fire on the earth, and he manifested in this world as first when the Allfather's form bled into the earth. A face first appeared, and a rock face. And then when this rock face opened his eyes, it looked upon the earth and the sky and the trees, and he wanted to walk, he wanted to move, and therefore he took form and shape and stood very high above things, not quite so high. And then as he moved upon the earth, he began to conceptualize, he began to envision his imprint upon this world. And over to you, Nelson.
Wonderful. Garconius. And moving right along to our last, but certainly not least, our friend Nick.
Who, me? All right, yeah, I'm Nick. I'm going to be playing Poe. Poe is the font of Ambrosia. Poe was conceived when the elder god who was eaten was destroyed. His favorite brass jug where he kept his favorite drink, it fell to the earth below, and it spilled in a forest. And as the ambrosia flowed out from it, it spilled into a pool where a cow was drinking, and the cow drank of this ambrosia, and the spirit of Poe was born in that moment, and he went into this cow, and a body sprouted up from it, in the image of his creator, or what he used to be, and then he promptly fell into the pool, where he came into contact with a hallucinogenic toad, and took on the properties of that toad as well, and now has the head of a hallucinogenic toad to go along with the body in the image of the fallen god, and the lower hindquarters of a female cow. And he embodies temptation, revelry, drink, and lovers, lusty, raunchy sex. Yeah, that's his realm. He's a benevolent god. He likes to use his divine abilities to soothe the minds of mortals and to relieve them of their sins, and gods alike one day, perhaps. But for now, he's just a splinter. He's just a splinter. So that's Poe.
And before proceeding any further, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that we are adults playing as adults and may use adult themes and languages. Thank you for tuning in. But yes, as demigods, as fragments of the Elder God, as portions of what has given Askinda its life and its breadth and variety, here is the image of Askinda, the land. You four demigods, newly being manifested into this world, only have the memory of the sound of gnawing and chewing, of bones crunching, the memory of just intense pain before manifesting into your current iterations. Walking upon this world in your new forms, you seem all drawn to Nyagha Wakoara, the forest of the ever-living. The closer you get, the louder the sounds in your heads become. Their prayers, crying out for some god, any god, to end their suffering. What do you gentlemen do as you all draw together, seeing each other, recognizing each other as a portion of the Elder God?
Wayfarer will look at his brothers and say, brothers, we must use our skills to go ahead and take care of this one cry that's out here on the wind and in the grounds and sounds of nature crying for help. Let us go forth and make nature great.
Yes, I agree, brother. And as he speaks, he would be kind of speaking, he's holding his jug up to his big frog lips. And he's got this big brass jug, about 3 feet high, maybe 1.5 feet around, so much higher than it is round. And he drinks from it. It's where he keeps his ambrosia. And he also puts himself in it at night and sleeps inside of his jug, kind of like a genie. And he lowers the jug down and he looks out at the forest, kind of wistfully, and his tail kind of swats at a fly on his backside, and he looks around to the rest and he says, "What say you, brothers? Shall we sally forth?"
Garconius or Vanut?
Arconius looks at the others one by one, and then he speaks. His voice was thunderous, and he says, "Brothers, I stand before you, and I greet you. I have heard the sounds of the earth, the tremors and the fires, and I wish to be brothers to this world. We will start by helping these people."
Yes, and as your thunderous voice takes Poe off guard a little bit, as he's again drinking from his jug, he chokes a little bit and spits, and then turns and gives you his full attention while you speak.
As Wayfarer was speaking about healing the land, Wayfarer, you would feel beneath your feet almost like if the land is moving, throwing you off balance, representing that this land is out of balance. Poe, when pulling your jug away from your lips, you catch a glimpse inside of your jug, your ambrosia appearing more like blood and the reflections of human faces screaming in pain. Garconius, as you speak and your voice booms and thunders, you can feel the ground and the earth beneath you begin to shake and crumble, not just from your voice, but in representation that this land that you now stand is weak and falling apart.
Wayfarer will say, brothers, our mother, Earth, here is in trouble. She spews and goes through tribulations as someone is either beating her or she's giving birth to something new and unknown to us. We should try to soothe our mother's aches and pains by whatever means may be necessary, and whatever afflicts her, let us put to the grave,
Ooh.
to the dirt.
Soothe her, you say? And at this, Poe would do the only thing he knows how to do to soothe something. He would begin to pour some ambrosia on the earth. And then as he did it and realized it wasn't working, he would look to Wayfarer and kind of cock his head and blink his huge eyes, and he'd look and he'd say, "I don't think it's working, brother."
Mother never cared for such libations. She was more the stalwart sort.
Heavy gasp. That's all.
Darkonius listens to the other, and he kneels down on the ground, and he takes his massive hand and places it on the earth, listening to the world. And he speaks, the essence of worlds, it is in chaos, my brothers. It is unchained. The threads that keep it on together can collapse. I am concerned of this.
Everyone seems so concerned with everything. Why don't you all have a drink with me, brothers? And then we'll take care of this mess. Hey!
As you guys are bantering back and forth and moving, trying to listen to the earth, stepping, like most things, you carelessly trounce over patches of grass. You may walk past some new growth and break some twigs. And you start noticing that every time you lift your foot above the grass, shortly after, the crushed, flattened grass begins to sprout back up. The broken twigs begin to mend and pull themselves back into place. Even the ambrosia that you poured upon the floor, it begins to coalesce into orbs, and those orbs grow into various grapes and fruits that would have made.
And I lick them up. Excellent. And actually, when I notice this, I see the ground and I kind of stomp on it with my hoof, and then seeing it grow back, he's looking down at the ground, and he starts kind of furiously kicking up and turning up the ground, and steps aside and says, "Oh, brother Wayfarer, is this natural?" And points at the anomaly.
Wayfarer will say, "Brother, stop destroying what is being graciously reborn, so full of life."
I'll blush.
He'll give Poe a little shoulder towards the rear haunches by his udder and say, "Be mindful of my nature and my floor.
And
It's going to bring life, and it's going to bring solitude to
And
the
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
So as you curb check Poe's rear side, he's already kind of put one on a bit at this point. So he kind of very ungraciously flops over on his side and then kind of gets up flustered and listens to you chastise him the rest of the way. And he's got this kind of almost like childish, like, "Ooh, I spilled the milk" kind of look on his frog face.
Then, even as Poe's massive form would have fell to the ground and crushed the grass and twigs and flowers beneath him, again, shortly after getting back up and before moving on, they would stand tall once again, the twigs mending each other and affixing themselves back into place. And again, inside your heads, you hear the echoes of faint prayers asking for mercy, asking for the pain to end. Will any other god answer their prayers? And you feel drawn even deeper into the forest of the everliving.
And at this point, Poe's so weak at this point, and he hasn't really formed his own identity at this point. So when he hears his prayers, he actually hears them through the jug, like he puts his ear up to it, and he's listening, and he's starting to get very concerned on his on his face, and he looks kind of slyly back over to Wayfarer, and he says, "Well, normally I would say this would be a good time for a drink, brother, but these are bad omens. Perhaps we should make haste. Show us the way."
When you put your ear to the jug to listen to the prayer, some of the prayers come in slightly more clearly, and you can hear the pain in their voice. Not just words, but the actual, "Why won't it end?" Why won't it end? Crying out, begging for it to end, begging for the suffering to stop.
Yeah.
There is no happiness. You can sense no happiness, no joy in the voices of the prayers you hear through your jug.
And this disturbs Poe considerably because of his benevolent sin-eater nature. He always likes to take the pain of his subjects into himself, so he becomes visibly agitated at this point and will remain so until he gets some relief.
Wayfarer will go from his humanoid type form and slide back into like that carpeted grass and twigs, lay on the ground, and he will try to feel like a compass needle, feel his body towards where the most disruption is coming from, which area, and then reform and point his brothers into this is the direction of our mother that is under such turmoil, and these puny voices that lay out, that cry for my guidance to heal them, along with your help, brothers.
Okay, would you roll a wisdom? Roll your wisdom.
Okay.
Is it wisdom? It's wisdom, right? Wise. Sorry. Roll your wise.
My wise. All right. So what's that?
It's just you. Whatever. If you look at the fate dice roller.
Yeah, I'm looking there right now.
Whatever your wise is, a +2 or a +3 or 0, you just click that and it will roll the dice for you.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
so
what
you
I
get
got.
so you get a 2. Now, the thing about fate is you didn't get close enough to succeed
Okay.
because a success is a 4.
Okay.
All right. However,
In
when
Poe.
you lie down and you envelop yourself in your grassy cloak and you're trying to feel the nature and direction of this pain, these prayers, the twigs and the grass continue to grow up and lift you off the floor, almost 3 entire feet off the floor, and you're hovering there, and the twigs are actually starting to dig into you very unnaturally, and you can feel the pain, and the pain in your body that you're feeling as the twigs are digging into you. You can tell at least that this pain is representative of the land. And it's not holding you steadily, you're swaying back and forth. And it's starting to pull, almost as if it wants to pull you apart. And it's pulling your limbs towards different directions. Yes, we're missing our death god. He hasn't responded.
Yeah. Okay. Wayfarer will then, as he's up on the ground, you're seeing all this dramatic pulling of nature. He will reassemble into a humanoid form and say, "Brothers, it's all about us. The forces are pulling from left to right, north to south, east to west, heaven to the unknown below, to the darkness of the reaches of below. We will need to pick a direction and go to see where we can help, and start with a point instead of all points."
As you guys are saying this, if I can take a little bit of a artist's artist freedom a little bit.
Liberties, baby, liberties.
Artist liberty there. As you guys are walking, there's a flower that almost instantly sprouts up out of nowhere, and from it, almost automatically pollen seems to spread out of it in large quantities until it takes the form of a golden humanoid figure, which then solidifies into your brother Vanut. And He looks at the three of you and says, "Why haven't you been talking about me? I mean, our mother is important, but why not me?"
We have been talking about you, brother. You must have misheard. And then he'll kind of look to Wayfarer and roll his eyes.
Wayfarer will look back and just sigh a heavy breath of evening air through the breeze of the trees, as it's just not again.
When Venut, you feel almost you're almost ignoring it when you say, "Why you haven't been talking about me?" As you say "me," you can feel some sort of tangible hideousness, some ugliness, uh, just filling you up from around you. And as you say it again, you feel it a little more strongly the second time over.
What is that ugliness I feel?
And you as well notice as you step and you move, breaking twigs and stepping on grass. Whenever you lift your foot, the grass stands tall once again. The twigs knit back together, and again you guys feel these prayers drawing you deeper into the forest.
Wayfarer will speak low in a low tone to Paul and say, "Our brother has looked at himself once again and realized that his true beauty is nothing but petty ugliness. We have to support him in his weak esteem. Let's move quickly towards this growing pain that seems to be further on in to the great forest."
So as you gentlemen begin proceeding deeper and deeper into Nyagha Wakoara, the forest of the ever-living, you see odd sights. Up in the trees, you would notice songbirds, and the songbirds seem to be flying around at first glance almost in a mating ritual. And as you're admiring this piece of nature, something that, with all the odd feelings that you're feeling, with the pain, especially Wayfarer, the pain of this forest throwing you off balance, seeing something that you would think is a normal sight, as moments pass, you notice that they're not flying back and forth in any mating ritual, that they're actually feasting upon each other, nipping at each other's wings and each other's breast and feathers, backwards and forwards through the air. You gentlemen proceed, you demigods proceed deeper into the forest.
Wayfarer, seeing this, will command these birds that he's seeing doing this. I mean, he's only seeing the birds right at the moment, right?
Right now, this forest, usually you would expect forests to be full of life and hearing all manner of things, and it's a little bit quieter than you would expect. And right now, the thing that most stands out are these two songbirds feasting upon each other.
And he'll command them using his command wildlife aspect.
Okay, are you spending a fate point to invoke?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Okay, so your choice. What is your ascendant aspect that is tied to?
That's tied to clever.
That's tied to clever. Okay, so move under intention. Move 1 point to the left towards clever, and then you would have to make a clever roll.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Not even for this. Don't even bother making a roll.
Yeah.
As he commands them to stop, feel free to describe how they stop and how they respond to your command.
Okay. Wayfarer will tell the pretty songbird over here, you of blue, you're of the sky. You should sing to the sky. Stand, sway over to this grand tall tree and sing. You, wonderful white bird, you're of the morning dew. Come down low and sing to the dew on the grass and the ever-growing life that springs from it. And as he says this, they part and go on up both ways, and they begin a most gorgeous symphony that harmonizes with each other in this aspect.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll definitely pour out a bit of ambrosia for the bird who comes down low and get it nice and relaxed.
Yeah, it begins pecking away as your ambrosia is forming into various grapes and other fruits.
So it would be made of honey.
Oh, it would be made of honey?
Yeah, so it's like a magical mead.
Oh, okay. My mistake. My mistake.
No, it's all good. It's okay because it's in the same family. So if that's the way that this area is manifesting it, I'm fine with that. It can be grapes. It can be whatever. But just when I talk about it, I'm thinking mead.
No,
Just
it's fine. It actually does maintain its form as honey. It almost becomes more like royal jelly. It solidifies a little bit more, becoming more viscous rather than liquid.
Mm.
And it's just
So
pecking away at it.
Excellent.
And it falls over and stretches its wings almost as if getting ready for a deep slumber.
Awesome. Sweet, Wayfarer. That was awesome.
And you demigods proceed deeper and deeper into the forest as these disturbing prayers are beckoning you. And just as Poe heard more clearly the pain and the anguish and the suffering and the voices that these prayers are being spoken in, so too do the rest of you feel that deeper pain and anguish. As you get closer, it's almost as if the forest wants to turn you upside down, Wayfarer, with how imbalanced it feels. You walk upon another odd sight, the sound most familiar to each and every one of you, the sound of gnawing and the tearing of flesh and the breaking of bone. Looking off into the distance, there is a small clearing. There's a pack of wolves gnawing at a fawn. The fawn isn't dead. It's making all of its noises, screaming out, writhing, trying to wriggle free, but the entire pack is upon it, tearing it apart.
That's you, Wayfarer.
Wayfarer will go ahead and try his stunt and shape change into a large wolf of a dark green that's almost a black with red fiery eyes. He will form himself into a size that's at least a size and a half bigger than the biggest one that's in the pack, and he will pounce forward and growl. This is my kill.
Yeah,
Leave now.
at first, some of them, before your change was complete, they just And as you're transforming, some of them turn, and they, the same growls are, and they just turn and run into the forest. Moments after they run into the forest, you can see the gaping hole that they were gnawing at rapidly stitch itself together. First the bones resetting, the muscles firing out, the tendons reuniting, then the skin growing and the fur growing back up on top of it, the fawn standing up and scurrying off into a different direction into the forest.
Well, that went a little different than I had planned.
And again, you can hear...
Wayfarer will stand there, sniff the air for any other scents that may be upon it, and with a killer mentality and view, scanning his area for any other challengers that may approach.
As you're sniffing the air, in your new form, it smells as if the entire forest is predatory. You can smell the scent of a predator all around you, in the grass, in the dirt, on the trees.
Wayfarer will circle around like he's chasing his tail, and then stop as he's circling and sniffing, and he will lay out a howl of pain and almost a tinge of fear, and he'll drop trowel.
So, what are the names of the other two gods? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Garconius and Venut.
So Garconius is the big rock giant, right?
Yeah.
So Poe, watching Wayfarer do all this, he would just kind of shake his head, and he would turn and kind of look up to the Titan in stone, or the mountain that walks, and he would say, "Dear me, Wayfarer is so uptight all of the time. You'd think he could relax once in a while."
Well, Garconius nods his head and looks down at Poe, then looks back at Wayfarer. He's mesmerized by Wayfarer's form, as if he's trying to figure out how he did that. And then he looks down to Poe again. Maybe you should give him some of your ambrosia again.
And as you look over to Poe, you see Poe's kind of holding the jug out in front of him and looking in it, and then his silver tongue, is darting out and in and like swirling around at rapid speed and coming out, and it's bringing this really thick, like gooey material out, and he's bringing it into his mouth, and it's gumming up his mouth, and he turns to look at you and he says,
and then Garconius raises an eyebrow and he says, "Maybe not."
With this happening, in the moments that Wayfarer in his new form was circling around, and just as he was howling, in those moments soon after, you hear a reply to your howl, and it's a...
Do we all hear this?
Everyone hears this, and even moments after that, you feel a wind blow. And in this wind, all of the plant life around you begins to rot and die. And moments after that wind passes, the rot and the death begin to heal, and the color returns back to the leaves, and they grow, and the twigs reform in the grass, and return all to what seems to be normal.
And Poe is spitting now, trying to get the taste of rancid mead out of his mouth. Spitting on the ground, he looks around kind of frantically, almost afraid. He's got goose flesh now, because as that wind went past him, this horrible chill went up his spine, all the way up from the tail, all the way up to the nape of his frog neck, and and he'd look around and he would say, "Oh there, brothers. I don't like this very much. Maybe we should hurry." And he would be looking a little visibly worried and a little bit scared.
Wayfarer, with hearing that on the wind and seeing and feeling the wind, will, after dropping his trowel there to mark his spot, will go ahead and spring forward and start at a large, almost gallop, like in the direction that the wind and the howl came from. At the same time, he'll turn his head and say, "Hurry, brothers! Onward we go. We have to fix this."
Excellent, awesome. And then Poe will bring up the rear guard, and sheepishly, when he's sure that no one's looking, he will stealthily pick up the dropping and then slyly smile as he puts it into a little pouch on his belt.
All right, but as you guys are going off into the direction you're going off into, you're moving in a direction that's opposite where you felt yourself initially being pulled. Did you want to say something, Brian?
Oh, I was going to say when Garconius felt all this, he felt it going through his body, and these fiery beings started appearing over his up his legs, and then when this happened, he willed this chaos in his body to leave, and he looked upon the land, and he was thinking that this poison must be removed from this earth.
So running off into the distance, you still feel yourselves pulled in the opposite direction, but the pull is though that pull is getting a little stronger, the sound of the prayers is getting weaker. The echoes in your head becoming more mumbled and harder to understand. You would run off into the direction you're running, and Wayfarer, being that he is in this new form and was more alert, gets the sense of being watched.
Wayfarer will stop in his tracks, sliding with his back half sliding around, almost like a NASCAR coming on into the pit after a victory lap. And he will stop and say, "We're being watched." And he's going to sniff the air. He's going to scan the sectors to see if he sees anything that seems to be watching them or him particularly, and try to regain that natural compass within himself in this form.
So Garconius strides right beside Wayfarer, listening to what he said. "Do you know do you see anything? Do you hear anything, Wayfarer?"
Wayfarer would most undoubtedly hear small little twigs moving, the sound of grass blowing in the wind, though no wind really blowing hard enough to move any tall grass. He would see motion through the trees on the ground, moving all around him.
Wayfarer will express a lot of concerns in his whine and whimper, not knowing which way this presence has befalled him, and he'll express that to his brothers with a hound's kind of concerned whimper and his constant looking back and forth, looking back once in a while, picking up his leg and nipping at his undercarriage like he picked up a tick or a flea.
Okay, let me get this straight. We have an unseen assailant who we think is nearby. Is that what's going on?
That's what he's feeling. He's feeling a presence and hearing things, and as he's getting a little bit more antsy about it, it's becoming more and more apparent to the rest of you that there is something hidden amongst this thick wood.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can we communicate with you in wolf form, Wayfarer?
I would think so.
Yeah, he just froze.
I started running. I turned and told you guys to follow me at that one point. So
yeah.
I think we established that he could communicate.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as that, it's just that when he was in the wolf form, he was going to try to take on some of the wolf attributes a little bit more onto that. But with this presence being as disconcerting, he'll bring himself back to his more preferred statue of the humanoid with the grass cloak and twigs, so we can figure out where we need to go or what this is. And he will, in frustration, yell out to the skies around, "You abomination of nature that puts my children at such disconcern. I command that you show yourself if you're not a coward."
Excellent. I'm gonna join in on that and invoke. I'm gonna invoke my high concept to help tempt this malevolent force out into the open. So I will join in with your insults. Yes, come and face us. Show us what you can do. And I will invoke my to give a +2 to that if it's needed, or invoke for effect just to get it out in front, depending on what you want to do. And I will adjust.
Yeah, because I believe your high concept is tied to an ascended attribute.
It is. It's bold, so I go one more towards bold.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Your brother demigods joining in, or what? Okay. So they're not. You guys can do what you like, because you invoked and it wasn't that difficult. It's just going to happen. Is that from the trees? You guys see branches and leaves and twigs and moss fall from the tree, almost as if they were dying on the spot. And as these things begin to fall, the leaves changing colors rapidly from the greens to the oranges, reds, and browns. They hit the floor, and shortly after hitting the floor, the leaves again change color, going backwards from the browns and oranges and reds back to a lush green, and then the green becoming dark and almost pitch-like. These clumps of foliage that had fallen to the ground begin knitting themselves together into humanoid shapes. And they look almost as if the skeletons of people. And they stand there surrounding you silently.
Well, brother, it looks like they showed themselves. Now what? And he's kind of looking around sheepishly because fighting things isn't necessarily his forte. As a matter of fact, he kind of nervously sort of backs himself up and around the mountain that walks and is now sort of peeking out from behind his shoulder.
Garconius sees this, and he looks down to Poe, and he do not worry, brother. I will protect you.
And Poe just lifts the jug up, offering him a drink.
Not now, not now.
More for me, then. And he takes one.
How many, Nelson, how many skeletons are there?
It's about 24.
What? Are they different sizes?
No, they all look to be the same size and shape of a normal human skeleton, except that they're comprised entirely of twig and plant matter.
Do they have any weapons?
No.
Garconius surveys all this. Let us try and communicate with these things. Something isn't right. If they wanted to attack, they would have attacked already.
It seems like one of our other brothers would be more suited to that. Unfortunate he couldn't make it today.
That is true, but death is certainly in the wind at this very moment.
Yes, my friend, one could say that a mountain will crumble one day, and so therefore you can sort of be death-like, right? And then he takes another drink, and he blushes again because he realizes that he's not really making any sense.
And as you guys are going back and forth with this banter, these figures are starting to slowly close in on you, and they seem to be swaying once to the left and the right, motioning as if sniffing the air, then looking back and forward at each of their compatriots.
Wayfarer will go ahead and seeing this and seeing that they're not trying to communicate but encroach upon his lovely forest and doing the damage that he's going to try to pull the carpet, so to say, out from underneath him by taking the sod in a blanket-like action and flop it up in the air, and then if they fly on up, he'll try to take the other side of it, the action, and bring it over to cover them to control in a degree, to limit their movement, to restrain. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay, so you're grabbing the ground, the grass on the ground, and trying to use it as a carpet to restrain them?
Yes, basically. Unsettle their feet, like taking that blanket.
So you're trying to create a boost or a scene aspect. All right? So you would roll whatever you think is in accordance to that. I mean, your might or your bold. I mean, this does sound like a pretty bold move, doesn't it, fellas?
Yeah, this is manifesting your will on the world. That's bold.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
So roll your bold. The difficulty will only be a 4, so as long as you get a 4 total, it will work. But you could create a scene aspect.
That kind of sucks. That's one of my weakest. But here we go. Where'd you go? There we go.
Where's
Yeah,
the roll at? Oh, there
Okay,
it is.
there it is. Okay, so
So you got a 0.
you got a 0, so it's not even close to succeeding. You know, so you grab up a piece of the. Matter of fact, you can narrate how this actually fails.
Okay. As Wayfarer grabs up the soil and goes to release it on the upward move and like that, their stick-like limbs on their feet seem to entrench and grow like spikes into the blanket and holds them tightly to it, and they ride it like a surfer riding a wave on the ocean. And when he comes on down to snap it and turn it, he sees that it's gone nowhere, so he just drops it. And then they wave back and forth as in a mockery chuckle, but silent.
And they are silent, and they have their silent chuckle, and they all turn to you, gentlemen. And though their heads appear as solid skulls, you see the brow part of the skull begin to lower and furrow. Do any other of you demigods wish to go at this point in time?
It is fine, my brothers. I will handle this. And Vanu will step forward, and he will disrobe, and he will feast upon the embodiment of my essence, the splendor of my being. If I use that aspect.
What are you trying to do with the aspect?
The splendor of my being, the bold, to kind of to essentially turn them into gold.
Okay, roll it.
So being very close to him in essence or in nature, I'll know that this act, and I'll see him start to disrobe, and I'll face palm a little, and then I'll reach around to the back and I'll pull out my lute, and I'll begin to play the tune that I always play while he's disrobing. And it's just this beautiful melody that just goes right along with his dance moves or whatever he's doing.
Well, that's the perfect role for that.
You got 0?
Wow. So
God damn it! Even if I tried to create an advantage with that loot, it wouldn't help you any. Fuck, guys, do better! I
So
can only
Luke-
give you +2, damn it!
describe how you disrobing and move your intention accordingly, and then describe how this actually fails and how Vanute reacts to this failure.
Well, as he goes to disrobe, he forgets the most important thing about skeletons is that they don't have eyes. So they have nothing to look at. But more importantly, when he disrobes, it is one of the few times he's ever disrobed as an attack, and so to not to be too explicit, he's it's a bit cold out.
Yeah!
Shrinkage!
And as I see his shoulders begin to slump, and mind you, because he's so egotistical, it's like a millimeter that they slump, right? But I come up from behind him, still kind of playing the tune, but right as I approach, it trails off, and then I just let it go with a big bling, and I come up behind him and I say, "It's okay, brother. You can't win them all." And I'll kind of pick up his robe and kind of, bring it up over his shoulders a little bit.
All right, Garconis, being the only one not to act, would you like to act?
Yes. And seeing all this and how the effects of his brother's powers was nullified by these things, Garconius gives out a cry of anger and shouts, "How dare you defy us!" And he slams his fist into the earth, and getting the idea from Wayfarer, these giant hands burst out of the earth to grab onto these creatures and crush them.
No, that's how it's done.
Are you doing that as an attack, or are you trying to subdue them like Wayfarer?
Oh, I think he's a bit angry that his brothers are field in front of him, creatures, and he just wants an effect. So he wants the attack. He wants to hurt.
All right, cool. So that would be. I mean, that sounds most like a might attack to me.
Yeah.
It does.
So what do I press here?
So just you roll your might, and since it's an actual attack, I would have to roll my defense.
Yeah, where do I roll this?
The fate dice roller.
Where is that?
It's the thing that looks like the F. You used it already to create your aspects.
Yeah, I have that on, but where is it?
It's the second tab. So whatever your might is, which I think is like a +3 for your character.
Yeah.
Yeah, just click +3 and it'll roll the dice for you and add everything, and the modifiers, automatically.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
First good roll in the game.
Superb. All right, now they have to roll their defense against that.
Yeah, boy.
Oh.
Yeah, a 3 shift hit. Oh, that's fucked up. Is there boosts and accelerated?
Yeah, you could do a boost, and you could just narrate how you actually destroy all of these creatures.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, cool. So, this thunderous crash came onto the earth and rippled through the ground. These massive hands came before these creatures, and they were flexing and unflexing before them, and grabbed each and every one of them, raising them up onto the air, and started to crush them until they become cinders as fire engulfs them, and then the arms crack and crumble into the earth and become nothing.
Nice. And
Oh, that's how it's done. And I'll give him a good, healthy, pat on the back.
Pat on the feet.
On the rump, yeah, of course. Sports.
And so Garconius rises and stands again, and he's breathing heavily, and he says, this mockery will not go unpunished.
Wayfarer will look at these burning embers that are on the forest floor from his mighty attack, and he'll open up his cloak and take his huge manly member, and he will go ahead and put out any fire hazard that may be there by watering them down with his own watery fluid. Basically pissing on them.
yeah. Again, as this is happening, you're starting to feel the echoes of those prayers call out to you some more. Do you continue in the direction that you were going, or where you came from, where you're being pulled?
Which way is the right way? God damn it.
Somebody figure this shit out.
I say we go where we're being pulled, where the voice is the loudest and the clearest.
Well, I'm fucking whimsical and fickle, so I'm definitely going wherever I'm pulled. I mean, that's just gonna happen. He's tempted to go in that direction, so he's going to go in that direction. I guess that does make sense for Poe.
Yeah, Arconius will go to the direction they're being pulled. There's definitely a force in that position.
Okay, so in time you walk across again oddities of nature. You know, the birds, more birds feasting upon each other, other creatures wrapped in vines as if the vines were overgrowing on them and holding them in place, growing into them, through them, and back out of them. You walk further and further, the prayers becoming clearer and clearer. Save us, or save me. Stop this pain. How do we stop this? How does it end? It'll never end. Why? And you're hearing these prayers calling out to each and every one of you. As you draw closer to these prayers, closer to these utterings, and they're becoming clearer and clearer, you're noticing in the foliage and the trees and the grass, they become heavier and heavier and covered in what seems to be black crust. You know, black discoloration across everything.
So is there any way for us to glean some information from these prayers? Like, is there any way to try to figure out the nature?
You want to roll a wise?
Yeah, I would love to roll a wise.
Go ahead, roll a wise.
Okay, I will roll a wise. I have +2 in wise. So I'm listening to my jug, like the voices are getting noisier, and as we're walking, Poe's getting more and more distracted as he listens. And finally, he thinks he might have figured something out, and he got a 2.
Not right now. Poe, with the listening, at best, as he's going and trying to listen to his jug, and maybe I'm assuming he's is constantly going back and taking swigs once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would just see images of pain-filled faces, and there would be crying tears of blood that would discolor his mead into the color of blood before fading away and appearing as mead again.
And seeing these things and thinking himself to be wise and right, he would turn and he would look around at the other guys and he would say, "We're definitely on the right track." And then he would continue along.
And the rest of you keep going towards where you're being pulled, moving towards these prayers that are going from almost whispers and echoes to now nearly screaming in your heads, the power and desperation of these prayers. Growing closer, the dense forest, the blackness you're noticing is being replaced with red, the red of blood, decorating these trees, covering these trees almost in its entirety. You step through the foliage, the tall grass, as it is almost as tall as most of you, with the exception of Garconius. The blades of grass have fresh blood trickling down them, maybe a few hours old. It bursts open into a clearing, and this clearing is the very edge of a small tribal town. How do you demigods react to that?
There's a town in the middle of this? Oh, this is more like it. People! I love people.
Wayfarer will maintain his humanoid form, like he said, with the grass robe and like that, but he'll move in quietly, subtly, looking about to see if there's a point where the scream, or if he can hear some screams or smell the fresh blood that's being spilt.
Um, you would see that the blood actually trails back into town, and the sun is almost setting, creating that twilight, the mists in the air, the last bit of sunlight, eerily illuminating the foliage, the blood, the glistening blood. Um, yes, you can feel the prayers as heavily as you have this entire journey. But your actual ears can starting your physical ears can now hear not the prayers but chanting, rhythmic chanting, and crying and yelling and chanting, and
My,
the beat of drums.
my brothers, can you hear it? This is the source of the maelstrom of torment. We must do something to end their suffering. And then I'll take a drink.
And you also notice that there is a trail of blood leading towards the center of this village.
I'm going in.
Wayfarer will continue striding strongly, confidently down this path of blood with a heavy furrow on his face and just clenching his fists but holding them on down as to trying to control himself from screaming from the sounds that he hears going outside his head and inside his head.
And as Poe comes up beside of him and matches his stride forward, instead of preparing himself for battle, he starts to, like move his ceremonial bits and pieces around and make sure that his godly visage is in the right state to be meeting some possible future worshippers. And then he'll kind of look over, as he's fussing about and having trouble getting his image right, and he'll look over at his golden brother and who's just looks perfect all the time, and he'll kind of scoff and a little jealous of that.
Garconius is roving about, looking at all this this chaos and listening to the signs and the strength of the power of the source, and he grits his teeth and strides down and strides powerfully forward behind Poe and Wayfarer and beside his golden brother.
As you
Wayfarer will remind his golden brother, remember, keep that thing covered. You saw what happened last time. It was a little embarrassing for us, being your brothers, to have such a heckling over such a piece of us.
And Poe will strum his lute in agreement.
There's as you're walking and striding deeper towards the center of this village, throughout the village there is overgrowth of, plant life and trees. You're starting to notice pinned on some of these larger trees, the corpses of animals, and it's a seriously gruesome sight, where the rib cages are pulled open and several ribs are removed. The skin is peeled back and actually nailed to the trees with their rib cages, the rib cages of these creatures. As you're walking towards them, the creatures actually lift their heads up and stare at you.
Oh, fuck no. Yeah, so Poe, at this point, he's trotting forward in full pageantry mode, sees this shit, his face goes even greener than normal, his knees kind of buckle almost a little bit, and then he completely forgets about his austere appearance and is looking very unnerved, is looking very like he keeps taking glances at Wayfarer to see what's going through what's on his face, and because like this is not his realm and these are not his kind of people.
And you notice that the animals aren't their corpses aren't rotten. They look fresh, and the skin looks alive, and their coats look lush, and they are constantly bleeding.
Yeah, this is fucked up.
Though they don't have any visible organs in them.
I
Wayfarer
in my mouth.
Wayfarer will start, as he starts seeing this, ripping these animals down off the trees and the brush and putting them to the ground and putting his hands over their heads and giving them peace and saying, I will avenge you for this heinous abomination to your natural state.
And Poe would see his brother just completely distraught, and he would join him in this endeavor, though he's not nearly as good at it. But he tries.
And when Garconius sees this, he clenches his powerful fists and grits his teeth, and he's growling. And as he's growling, he's getting angry, and these red, fiery veins flash over his arms and up his neck. And Garconius feels as if it was a new, powerful sensation that just was erupting within him, and he sees this decay and torment, and he uses his will to suppress this anger, and strides forward.
But should he be able to suppress his anger?
That's whether or not any of us want to compel his trouble. And at this point in time, I'm fine with him suppressing his anger.
Okay, I'm not going to spend the point either then.
And if you guys want to compel his volcanic fury, feel free. But in the meantime,
I don't want to do it just yet, but I would if anybody wants to go with it. But I just want to see. I want this face to pop out and see who it is first before. Maybe I should just say that he's not suppressing it, but he's feeling a little bit troubled by it. Maybe it's as if these drums are playing deep within the core of him, and it's not completely suppressed.
I mean, how new are we, Nelson?
You guys were just created.
Okay, so we've never seen this shit. In our heads, humans are just, placid.
It does definitely feel wrong.
Yeah, this is not.
You still have the base instincts that this elder god would have had, and the base sort of feelings and emotions. You still have, so you can still be disturbed by it. You can still notice that this is odd, this is wrong, and this is weird.
Yeah, this is wrong. Poe's starting to dislike this community.
Surprisingly, Venant is not tearing these animals down and trying to save them. There are people, there are humans here, right?
You haven't seen any yet, but you can hear human voices chanting and screaming, and some of the screams are very tribal, almost like a song as part of the chanting. Some of them are screams of intense pain and suffering. And as you're hearing those chants and those screams, the beating of drums, and some of you are taking these animals from their stations, from where they're pinned to trees, and attending them, giving them what you might feel are their last rites. They actually struggle back up to their feet and stumble away. And as they're stumbling away, they begin to gallop. And you're noticing that they're no longer bleeding, and the cavities that were peeled open are now shut. And they run off into the darkness out of the village.
As Vinod hears these drums and the screaming, and there's almost like his feet almost begin sort of to dance to the drum beat, since he's heard his brother play music before, but he's never heard of the sound of drums before. So he starts to almost dance to the beat.
And you demigods proceed?
Yeah, Poe makes one comment as the animals are beginning to run away. He would turn to Wayfarer and in a solemn tone, which is not characteristic of Poe, he would say, "If only they all had wings and could fly away from this cursed place." And then he would kind of shake his head and offer Wayfarer a drink.
Wayfarer, under the circumstances, will tell his brother that he so much needs a drink to balance his steady right now, but however, he will take that after the task is done. Whoever done this corruption shall pay first, and will party on their corpse.
And with the revelry reinvigorated in his boisterous spirit, Poe would look to Wayfarer and he'd say, "Fine enough, brother, but I'll have mine now and later, and then I'll take a drink and continue on."
So as you're continuing deeper into the center of this village, it's not long before the light of a bonfire illuminates your path. The chanting is as loud and as clear as ever, and you see in concentric circles men and women dancing. There are 4 seeming to be altars. These altars are constructed from animals, plants, people, actual flesh and bone, tied together with sinew. Every part of these altars seems alive. Nothing is dead, nothing is dried, nothing is rotted. On top of these altars, on top of each one, there is a human being crying out in pain. There are several other humans holding them down. They begin cutting them with blades made of sharpened bone. They're peeling away their skin, taking them off, exposing all the muscle underneath. They start carving away bits of muscle, exposing the bones and the organs underneath that. The entire time, this human is screaming in agony. Layer after layer, they start snapping rib bones until all the ribs are out.
Okay, fuck this shit. I'm jumping in the middle of all this.
Okay.
Fuck
So
this shit.
how do you do that?
So Poe, uncharacteristically brave, just has had enough, and he's actually starting to gain a little bit of power from this party that's happening here. He's tapping into the spirit of revelry that is within, even sick and twisted as it is. So, you know, maybe part of that is even affecting him, making him a little bit more bold or a little bit more crazy. And he's he's just going to jump just right up into the middle of the whole thing, and he's going to attempt to get all eyes on him, and he will jump into the middle, and he will say, "What is the meaning of this, mortals? Why must you have pain with your pleasure?"
I would actually like to compel Poe in this moment.
Okay, I'm doing it.
For benevolent Sin Eater.
Awesome.
So you're
what happens?
You're taking it? All right.
I'm taking the point, yeah.
I would like you to roll a wise, as this is you jump in there and you're literally consuming the chanting. You're consuming the intent, the emotion, the pain, trying to get rid of it, trying to get rid of this pain and leave only pleasure. And in doing so, okay, you're 1 point off. So I believe you can succeed at a cost.
I will take it.
All right. So, what would you like the cost to be?
Well, I don't really know what's going to happen, so it's hard to. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, Nelson. So it's hard.
The failure could be a point of strain.
Of stress.
Stress.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take stress because this will stress out my character for sure. He's super stressed out. Absolutely. I'll knock off my #1 stress box as that cost if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
So he actually consumes. You consume a great deal of. It's not necessarily hatred, as much as madness.
Okay.
You consume the malicious intent to inflict pain and suffering, and the chanting rapidly dies out as you have jumped to the center. They're not pulling apart this person anymore, and the person the one of the three that was almost destroyed is just lying there crying, but you could hear a voice echoing in your head, thank you, with each whelping cry.
Wayfarer, while his brother is doing all this, will try to command the earth around the altars to kind of subtly shake and break the altars from the footing and have them fall apart, since the direction of the humans or these evil SOBs are on my brother Poe.
All right. As you're doing that, now normally it would actually listen. You feel that it should listen to you. Even with Poe there, noticing that Poe is consuming some form of darkness, these altars, though they begin to shake and subtly twist to and fro, you notice that the muscles and the sinew are actually contracting as if alive and holding itself together.
Seeing that, Wayfarer will move swiftly over to the altars and begin smashing the altars with his hands.
Awesome. And I'd like to go ahead and try to distract them away, so they're not paying attention to him a little bit, if I can.
Okay.
So I'll do that by I'm going to invoke again. I'm going to invoke the Master of the Font of Ambrosia. Just after saying, "Why must you take pain with your pleasure, Poe will rear up and begin spraying ambrosia out of his udders out into the crowd and getting as much into their mouths as he can. And essentially, this stuff is like if a mortal would consume this stuff, even a little teeny bit, they would immediately be drunk in its normal state. That's its normal state. I'll talk to you about the stunt I want to use probably on the break because it's a little complicated. I'm not using it today.
Okay.
But yeah, so I just want to start spraying this ambrosia out and try to get it into as many mouths as I can, or run it over the eyeballs or into the ears, or whichever way I can get it into them, or into their bloodstream if they're all cut open. These weird fuckers.
Okay.
So I'm going to use bold, and I'm going to take the +2 for the invocation if that's okay with you.
No problem. Roll it.
And I will roll it, and then I will move my intention. So this is +5 on this roll.
Egads.
So it's a great of 4 all in all.
So let's see what happens.
Oh!
Right. So you can describe it, except for one thing.
Uh-huh.
These humans do not actually get drunk. Other than that, you can describe what happens.
Okay, so excellent. So he would rear up and just begin spraying this stuff out like super soakers, like 5 or 6 of them, and they're all articulate, so like he can aim each individual udder, and he's just spraying this stuff around, and he's expecting to see glossy faces, but instead, because these people can't get drunk, it's only his divine essence and will to soothe them that has any effect at all. And I would hope that maybe I would get them soothed at least soothed, and if not soothed, then distracted out of this.
Yeah, like I said, you could describe exactly what happens, except for the fact that they don't get drunk. So they can definitely be soothed.
So they relax, and they're all looking at me. So they're distracted and relaxed. Maybe that's an aspect for them. I don't know, a temporary or a boost or something. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, so he sprays this stuff around, and everybody's not looking at Wayfarer while he breaks up their things. They're all paying attention to me, and as they're paying attention to me, I start to feel, for the first time in my life, the attention of mortals. And even in their twisted state, that starts to ebb up inside of me, that feeling of power, of unity of mind, of the eyes of mortals upon me. And while these aren't even believers, I still feel that influence on that divine well within. And
well, actually,
uh-huh.
You do feel that these guys are believers.
Oh, wow! So I have touched them, huh? So I start to feel. So they start to their essence and their beliefs and their ideas of what I am start to enter my mind and imprint on me, and everyone around me would see Poe begin to kind of brighten. He's almost putting off a little bit of a golden aura as he prances around and displays and offers himself as an idol to these people.
And Vanut and Garconis?
As Vanut kind of sees Poe become this quite somewhat golden aspect, he becomes very jealous of his brother, becoming the center of attention when he wants to be the center of the attention. So he approaches one of the mutilated humans on the altar and bends down and whispers into its ear, "You will become like me, perfect in every way, unharmed by these villains." And he kind of wants to how to describe this.
There is only one that was completely mutilated.
Alright, I would like to make you. Is it a woman or is it a man?
Your choice.
Woman. I would like to make you in my image. Make you reborn. A better person. You won't have to worry about being mutilated this way because they cannot touch your divinity. Just like they cannot touch mine. And I would like to you not compel, but
You want to invoke
use
something?
invoke my aspect. Every city has its treasure.
Okay. I believe that was one of your ascendant aspects, right?
Yes.
So you have to move your intention one box closer to that aspect, and spend a fate point.
Okay.
And what would you like to have happen?
I would like to, if possible, either turn her into a succubi, or turn her hair golden, or her skin a golden hue, and that kind of.
Um, was that? Did you take that stunt? The ability to bring the dead back in your image, your dead followers.
When someone under my influence dies, they're reincarnated as.
Okay. Well, she doesn't come back as a succubi because she doesn't die.
Yeah.
But her tears flowing from her face. You know what? If you want, describe how she comes back golden and in your image.
All right. In this place where things regenerate instead of dying, as I kind of move my hands over her body in a very almost sensual manner, over her wounds stick back, and her skin reforms and muscles attached and sinews kind of connect again. But as my hand passes over her, what was once a smooth, whiter flesh now becomes a golden, tanned hue, and as one hand passes over her hair and through her finger, as my fingers move through her hair, they become golden streaks, and as I pass over her eyes, the irises become this yellowy, golden texture, and she becomes the epitome of what she considers herself to be beautiful, while at the same time being in my image as well. So she may not be a succubi, but she is a figure of beauty otherwise.
Yeah, she's still tied to well, I guess she wouldn't be tied to the altar with Wayfarer destroying them. But Garconius, would you like to do anything in these moments?
Yes, Nelson, does Garconius feel?
Oh man, that wasn't cool. He just dropped in the middle of himself talking. Well, I'm assuming he'll come back, but until that point, with Wayfarer destroying these altars, with Vanut recreating this tortured soul in his image, with Poe, not only consuming all the hate and the malice and madness of this community, and bathing them in ambrosia.
Fuck yeah.
The first thing that at least Wayfarer would notice is as he's destroying and ripping apart these altars, you notice that the flesh and the trees and everything involved in the altar's construction is actually alive. And as you start to destroy these altars, moments after destroying, you see them reaching out to their lichened parts and starting to attempt to reform into what they once were. The animals reforming, into what they were. The people, the human bones, reforming into what they once were. The screams of pain and the cries of torment as this is happening, being crying out. Um, and this happens for many of the altars, for all three altars. The woman who is now remade, looking tan with golden hair, actually throws her arms around Vanut, crying, but her cries not that of pain, but almost of joy.
This is awesome.
Um,
So I hop up there, convert them, and then you provide an idol for them to continue to worship while we're gone. This is fucking awesome. While Wayfarer destroys the artifacts of their old deity.
well, now that Garconius is back, what was Garconius going to do?
What just happened? Can you fill me in what just happened?
Okay, Wayfarer was destroying these altars. As he was ripping these altars apart, he could tell that every part of these altars were still living. There was still living tissue. When he tore them apart, they started reforming into their constituent parts: animals, humans, and plant life. The humans that were reforming, you could hear their cries and their screams of pain and anguish as they were slowly being reformed and their bodies were being stitched back together. Vanut had poured his power into this one mortal that was being torn apart as part of this chanting and whatnot. Her flesh reforming, but now reforming in a different color as a golden tan, and her hair now golden, almost mimicking that of Vanut himself. She had gotten up and thrown herself at Vanut, wrapping her arms around him, crying in not pain but joy. The rest of this community that was once chanting, the darkness in their hearts and their souls, literally being consumed by Po, and then being showered in this ambrosia, having all eyes on Po, almost swaying together in the same sort of rhythm as they were once chanting. And Garconis, what happens now with you is up to you.
Okay, so before I got disconnected, I was asking, do I feel anything like there's another force, another presence, an intelligence presence that is watching or anything like that?
Are you actually keeping your senses open to that?
Yeah.
All right. So I would say roll me a wise.
Okay. My wife is 2. Yeah, my wife is 2.
Okay. That's 1 point off, so you could succeed at a cost.
Yeah, I want to succeed.
All right. Would you like to try to choose your own course, or would you like me?
I don't know what to choose, so
It's just a minor detriment.
you choose. I let you
Okay.
choose.
What happens with all this going on, in the corners of your eyes, in the mere extent of your periphery, you would notice your brother, this large, hulking creature, Garconius, actually fall down to a knee. The earth trembling as this happens. He's grabbing his head, almost as in pain. And Garconius, you can feel anger and power and hatred as Po converts this community from who or what they were worshiping to worship you as you guys
Okay.
become their new pantheon.
Can I like when this happens to Carbonius and he falls to his knees and feels this pain and feels this anger, he he feels the anger coursing through him as well, and so I want him to smash his hand. Yeah, I want him to smash his hand into the earth as if his threads of flame is searching out for this presence to reveal itself and pull it out.
Well, what can happen is that these threads of flame illuminate the village and actually start burning away some of the plant life. And you would feel all around you that some of the plant life that was growing inside of this community, around this community, the you know how it was becoming denser and denser right before you got to this village? This village was almost hidden amongst the trees. All those vines, those trees, those roots, all of that begins to burn, and you could feel it pull away from the village. But you don't feel any physical force. Just the hatred of the hatred and the anger from an entity that had infused itself into this community as it was disconnected forcibly through Poe.
Okay, so
Did he glean a direction out of that?
Not currently. It felt like it was coming from all around him.
so
But
yes, when Garconius feels this, and he feels this pain and anger and hate was coming from what he believes is another being, his flames are spreading out like snakes, as if burning it all away, or as much as he can.
Now, is the stuff that he's burning away, is that not regenerating?
It is, but it's retreating as it is.
Oh.
It's actually leaving the village.
We're pushing out the malevolent, creating a little divine bubble in this area, huh? Interesting.
If you want, Brian, Garconius, see, it's going to be beneficial, so I can't compel it. But if you want the glory of the earth, if you want to invoke that, we can do some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, yes, okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so you would spend a fate point and move your intention 1 point towards bold. And as your flames are burning away at these roots, these trees, these vines, and as these things are retreating from the village, because of the glory, there we go. Because of the glory of the earth that you usher forward, the perimeter of forest that was around this village is actually uprooted and pushed further away via a wall of stone that now surrounds this forest. I mean, not the forest. Now surrounds this village.
So it's not shielded then, yes?
It's now physically shielded from the surrounding forest.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go, Nick. Go ahead.
All right. So as Poe is in the middle of this thing, and I almost feel like they had a bonfire in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Nelson. Okay, so he would have jumped up. We don't burn from mundane fire, right?
Nah.
Okay, so Poe would have jumped up into the middle of the bonfire and done this whole dance thing, and at one point, he's pulled out his lute as he's spraying, and everybody is starting to worship him, and then as his brother summons this massive wall of earth all around him at this perimeter, it obviously will shake and tremors and shakes and like a pretty, I'm assuming a pretty serious earthquake would come with this kind of movement, and Poe would fall back. He would lose his balance, and he would fall into the cinders and roll around furiously before taking his feet back up, and that would end his conversion ceremony or whatever, and then turn back up on his feet, covered in soot, not looking nearly as godly, and the glow is gone at this point too. He would turn to look out in wonder as he looks around at maybe even a shadow casting over part of the village now from the direction of the sun, and he would look to his brother and with like two broken strings on his lute, holding that in one hand, kind of slack jawed, he would look and he would say, "Impressive, brother. Make sure I never get on your bad side. Ha ha! Drinks for all!" And then he would start spraying more ambrosia.
Was that to me? Because I lost connection for...
Yeah, well, all of that insanity that he was describing was part of his convergence of this community, and the last bit was honoring you for your massive, the earthquake and the rising stone, this brand new protective perimeter.
Excellent.
Yeah, he fell in the fire due to the trembling of the ground, and then got up and complimented you on your massive strength and show of that strength.
Okay, and Barconius, when this all happens and he invokes his power, he slowly rises to his feet again. It's as if an earthquake was rising from the earth, and he stood steadfast.
And in the craziness that's happening, the newly converted villagers, as Poe is standing around and cheering and coming up covered in soot in this flame, playing the lute, the lute sort of breaking, they went from their swaying to beginning to chant again, the only chants that they know, but the tempo of the chants leave from the tempo that they were once being chanted at to matching the tempo of the lute playing, and almost more cheerfully than ominously. And they're starting to very confusingly start some sort of celebration and going back to moving in circles, but they drop the daggers and they're almost, just swaying like someone who's never danced or heard music before, but is hypnotized by its rhythm. The humans that had stitched together from the shattering and ripping apart of these living altars begin crawling towards the feet of Wayfarer. They're grabbing at his feet, pawing at him, kissing his feet at this moment, crying, tears just pouring out ceaselessly, saying thank you. Oh, you've ended it, and as they're saying you've ended it, all of you can hear the echoes of these prayers to end their suffering. And you're all drawn to these people that were once altars, knowing that the prayers were coming from them.
And Poe at this point would approach Wayfarer, solemnly and respectfully gazing upon the worshippers at his feet momentarily, and then addressing his brother, and with a big, like almost shit-eating, big, huge, froggish grin, he would. And revelry and boisterousness in his voice, he would come up and he would slap him on his back and he would say, "Well done, my brother! And look, our Titan has pushed back the plague upon the land. Brother, surely now you can restore nature's glory to this place."
Wayfarer will say, nature's glory will come, and the abundance of the forest will be there, but it will never enter this vile place around inside the stone walls. It will stay away from these men, for these men are corrupt at heart and easily swayed by cheap parlor tricks and aspects that are small in our eyes. They need to understand themselves and get a solid direction and not follow beauty, but understand the balance that nature provides, that there is life and that there is death, and that cycle should never be broken or tampered with.
Oh, as Wayfarer is speaking this, those that were pawing at your feet, that were kissing your feet, are starting to crawl up higher up your leg. No, no, crying out, please, no, don't leave us to nature. There is no death. Please release us.
And Poe, like, as he first approached Wayfarer, he was all jubilant and happy, and he had a good buzz going on, and he was even like reaching out to offer Wayfarer that drink that they had talked about having later. And then as Wayfarer's response, he's listening to the words, and you can see his spirits kind of drop, and then eventually he becomes bored, and he kind of pulls back the jug, and he says under his breath, "What a buzzkill." And
someone has to be the sense of the party, the DD.
And as he responds to that, I clasp on the back once again, the smile reinvigorated on my face, and I look him straight in the eye, and I say, "Thank God he ain't me! Ha ha! That's not my cup of tea, friend and brother. I will see how the rest do," and I'll kind of go around milling about and just basking in this feeling of worship that I've never tasted before.
Okay, so Poe goes back basically to tend to the party and to feel amazing.
I'm on trying to push my drink on all my brothers and
Gotcha. Vanut, you have you're hearing this going on, but you still have this golden female wrapping herself around you.
Is there any signs of someone who's in charge of this community, like a leader or?
Right now, with this swift change, it seems to be almost chaotic. With everyone learning how to interact and move. Almost like children. You know how you would see a baby hearing music almost for the first time? They just start jerking and moving, and these foreign movements that they feel compelled to make. They're all looking at each other for some sort of guidance, and the only one returning to give them any sort of guidance at this point in time is Poe. And over to the other side, there are several villagers. They're just naked and bloody at Wayfarer's feet, pawing at him, clawing at him, begging him for help, for freedom.
And he's just looking down his nose at him.
Yeah.
You cold-hearted bastard!
Yes,
So-
he is.
Have we seen signs of people like using fire in any way, shape, or form, or
Well, yeah, they have the big bonfire.
true?
So is Vanud doing anything besides letting this woman just grope him and cry on his shoulder? And just
He's kind of whispering things to her, like all special kind of secrety, almost divine things, like all children that you shall have shall be as beautiful as you are, and all any man who comes to you will truly understand your beauty, and from your lineage shall be kings and queens, things you will not have yet understood. And you will spawn chiefs rather than chiefs spawning, that kind of thing. Like,
all right. So you're just playing to her, which in essence is just playing up to your own power.
Yeah.
All right. Garconis, are you doing anything independent, or are you more or less with Wayfarer and these once altered? Altered? That sounds weird. These people that were once part of these altars.
Oh, well, Garconius is, he walks right up beside them, careful not to stand on any of the humans, and with his broad voice he says, "Children of this village, listen to me." Oh, I think he's about 20 feet, is that alright?
Yeah, 20 feet is fine.
Children of this land, listen to me. We are here as your protectors. We will help you. We will guide you. With these walls now around your village, no harm will come before you. The evil that has blighted this land is gone, and we will help.
All right. As Garconius is speaking, the ones that were once pawing at the feet, almost like visibly worshiping and crying out and begging for mercy and for help from Wayfarer, actually start crawling on their hands and knees over to you, and doing the same thing, kissing at your feet, holding and grabbing at your legs, crying out, "He's not gone. We're not safe. The suffering will never end. Please help us." And with Wayfarer and Garconius not attending to a party or feeding into their own ego, these naked, bloodied villagers are starting to. You can feel their energies and their pain forming in your head, forming images in your head. And the first thing that you see is this. And every time they say we're not safe, he won't let us. The suffering, the pain.
Is that Cthulhu tree? Ah!
You don't see that. You're tending to the party, brother.
So, okay, so
Wayfarer
when this
and
happens,
Garconius see this.
Garconius's head snaps back as if he got a shot through the head, and this image courses pain through him, and then he looks down to Wayfarer. "Brother, did you see that?" To Wayfarer, yeah.
Wayfarer will say, "See what? that these crawling ants that are on us begging for such salvation. And what do they give other than headaches and pains? Don't they know that life is a cycle?
Then in response to that, Garconius shakes his head and says, "No, brother, I have seen the source of this evil."
And with that, being the only god left open to this plight, the image begins to clarify itself, and it begins fading, becoming clearer, the darkness going away, and this is what he begins to see.
Well played, sir. Well played.
As they say, he won't let us go. We'll never die. There's only suffering. Please save us. As they're clawing away and trying to offer whatever they can, kissing at the stone feet of Garconius.
Nelson, do we get a sense of where this thing is?
Right now, no. There's just a feeling of chaos. There's celebration. There's brand new celebration mixed in with old pain and torment going on. There's, self-worship mere feet from you, from one of your brothers. There is indifference from another. The only one that actually knows the true image right now is Garconius, for he's the only one that remained opened to the emotions and plight of these mortals. And, we have hit the 2-hour mark. So if you gentlemen would like to pick up this campaign next week.
Wait, we're only playing for 2 hours?
Yeah, you want to play for more?
Well,
not all of us are in the same time.
Somebody's got to go to work, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was a pretty fulfilling session. I mean, I would love to play more, but if people got to go to work, they got to go to work. That's just how it is.
well, I would love to play more, but it's like near coming 12 here, so.
All right, I would like
Well,
to say...
easy.
Uh-huh.
I'm easy, but if other people have to go, then, we can leave it with this vision embedded in Garconius' mind.
Excellent. I did want to have a moment with... what's your name again, Golden Boy? I keep forgetting.
Vanut.
Vanut. I did want to have
Luke, you need to have your name and your thing. We're just calling you Golden Man or whatever.
Yeah, just I don't know how to. Eventually I'll remember everybody's name, but if you don't mind, I'll just say a couple words to him before we close out. Is that good? Awesome. So, Vanut, Poe, after taking in all of the different things in a moment. When he doesn't have any other distractions, he kind of saunters up to you and looks upon your creation and clasps you on the back and says, "Oh, brother, what is this? This is a fine image of you. What have you done?"
Vanut will kind of almost slowly, almost like not maliciously, but kind of like still kind of full of himself, look up at his brother Poe and say, "I have spread the first seed of wealth. I have brought the gift of myself to these people. Perhaps, my brother, we can work together."
Ooh. Yes, Vanut. I agree. She is quite beautiful. She will make a fine idol to carry on our message and name. And your visage, nonetheless. A fine visage, I must say. But I have a feeling you already know this.
but it will laugh as well.
Fine work, my brother. And he will offer to share his drink with you and celebrate your new creation.
But it will stand with his new golden lady, if you will. Take her hand, and he'll drink from the cup first, and then he'll pass it to her, and then taking her hand to lead her into the party of his brother.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
And I will turn to look at his child, and I will say, "Welcome, child of Vanut. You are welcome and amongst friends. Live long, be prosperous, and multiply in the image of my brother." And then I will take my drink. And that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. So, yeah, basically, you guys have just achieved your first station in this tribal community. Now, I'll post up most of the details in the Hangout, but right now, you guys can discuss what you want to name this. But this tribal community, the concept is, the forest of the ever-living. In addition, is blood rituals. They perform blood rituals, and they have a stunt here called "The head of our tribe is the heart of a god." I'll go into
it is.
I'll go into the details of what that specific one is when we're offline.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys want to just share any closing statements, introduce yourselves, or any online things that you're doing at this point, we'll start from my left to my right with Brian.
Well, I'll just say I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was great. I wasn't intimidated by the system at all. I still don't completely understand it, but I'm starting to get the gist of it, and that was great, Nelson. I really enjoyed that.
Cool, thanks. I'm happy you had a good time. Charles.
Yeah, I had a fairly good time. Like that, trying to get the feel for the system, and every family needs that stick in the mud or stick up the bupkis.
Oh, I love it. I love it, brother. It wasn't a criticism at all. I love
No,
that.
and,
I love it.
and he's actually Wayfarer is actually plans on playing kind of to it. There being nature, balance, cycle of life concept type of thing, and it was I think it was pretty good getting together, just trying to get the focus there and how to interject a couple things. But loved it, and definitely will be back. Ain't no doubt there, Nelson.
All right, beautiful, cool, thanks. Luke.
Let's see. Game-wise, I really am loving this gods thing. Like, not only being able to tell a good story, but at the same time, being able to shape the way a world works right from the beginning, and not being like, well, there was a story for a god to shape the world, and now you're the player characters. Now it's like, you are a god. You're going to shape the world. There might be player characters down the road, but right now, you're the most important thing. And I love this so far, and I can't wait till the next time we play. It's also really good for me because it's right after school, and somebody really tired from school, trying to make a story about a god that makes people to gold. Plugging anything. Probably about next week I'm gonna get an event up for the session 0 for my Titans of Cataclysm game for 5th I'm making. Where I'll get into specifics about it in the event page, but sometime in October I really want to actually get started into it, and I'll be looking for players about this month. So yeah.
Ah, sweet. Last but certainly not least, Nick.
Hey guys, thanks for playing, man, and Nelson, thanks for running this thing. I had no idea how this was going to go today. You know, and it went well. In my opinion, it was a lot of fun. Wayfarer, man, I love your character, and I love the contrast between Poe and your character. We're going to have so much fun playing with that contrast. And it makes total sense, because in any old pantheon, you know, not all the gods, you know, we get along, but not all the gods have the same ideology. Like, that's the point, is that we all manifest these ideologies to an extreme, and we have differences. And I really enjoyed that RP with you today, and I look forward to a lot more of that. Poe was fun. Poe was fun to play. I felt like you know, everybody got multiple chances to get in there and have some spotlight and to play with each other on that, and it was beautiful. And can't wait for next week.
Awesome, most definitely. And if you didn't know, now you know. My name is Nelson. This is Infinite Roleplay. We do stuff. Check you out next time. Peace.